Everybody, welcome back to Sparrow's Nest Farm. It's time for another Make Do Garden walkthrough. But I wanted to start by talking about last week's video a little bit. I was pretty frustrated last week. I'd had a rough couple weeks with some family things, and we actually had to put down our older dog. So coming back into the garden looking for my peace and just finding all that destruction and death, and it just really bugged me. But I got to thinking, I have in the past had really big gardens. My first garden was a 1/4 acre, and since then they've been varying, a little smaller than that, but not a lot. I still typically do very big gardens. So this garden is really small for me. I am growing very few things, and to have so much going on, it really came down to me realizing it was a perspective problem and a little bit of a scale problem. This is a small garden with a lot going on, so I had to take into account that usually, although the same things are happening, they're happening to a much larger garden. So even though I might have something that's got some bug problems, I've got so much more that is doing really great. So I am trying to remind myself that it'll be okay. There's some problems, but a lot of stuff is still doing good. So when we do the walkthrough, we'll talk about that a little bit. But I'm actually starting over here in my these juniper trees. These trees were here when we bought the property, and they are actually infected with cedar apple rust, which is a fungus, and it doesn't affect these junipers technically. What it does affect is my apple trees, which are sick and dying on the other side of the property. And I had plans to put more apple trees in. Let me see if I can show this without falling. So over here, there is, on the other side of these trees, a nice big open area, and you can see there's a fruit tree there. It's dead. It didn't make it, and there were actually 6 out there, and all of them died. And I'm assuming at this point that the cedar apple rust is part of the reason that they didn't make it. I'm not a huge fan of juniper trees. Just, I don't like the look of them. However, if you can see these little berries here, the juniper berries are actually medicinal. People do use them. I haven't. I'm not sad to see these guys go. They're kind of in the way, and they're a hindrance to my progress. So I posted some pictures of Whit taking this first tree down on Instagram yesterday, and I'm looking forward to this whole area being cleared out. My house is right there. You can't see it though because of the trees. So let me take you over and show you a couple of surprises by the chicken coop, and then we'll head into the garden. Let's start with a chicken update. These girls are looking real good. They're getting quite big. That's my biggest Buff Orpington, and if I'm over here, she'll come and stand right next to the edge of the coop and hang out with me. But as soon as I go in, she doesn't want me, but as long as I'm on the other side of a fence, she likes having me around. So everybody's doing really good. As you can see, I've been throwing kitchen scraps in there. These are working chickens. They will be composting my chickens or my kitchen scraps and turning it into dirt that I can put back into my garden. So this squash plant is huge and beautiful, but look at this. You see that curled tendril right there? I thought this was going to be a yellow squash because that's what my mother had here, but that is a vining type squash, not a bush. So I'm not sure what I'm going to get off this plant. If you look in here, I'm about to start getting some blossoms. And then I don't see any females yet, only males. So I don't quite know what I'm expecting. But we did grow acorn squash, butternut squash, spaghetti squash, and a couple other winter storage squashes that were vining in this garden last year. So I'm really curious to see if it's going to be one of those or if it's going to be a cross-pollinated freak, basically. As I was checking this out, though, I got to looking in here, and my mother's tomatoes were in this area, too. And let me see if I can do this. You see that? There is a tomato plant. Oops. And there's another tomato plant in there. Right here. Oops, there it is. And there's another one here. So there are a bunch of little tomato plants coming up under here. And again, I don't have a clue what they're going to be. We'll have to wait and see. But I may try and pull these tomato plants up and put them into some empty spaces in the garden. See if we can make them grow for us. This sunflower has not opened yet. But let me come around here. It is forming a head. So hopefully it'll open soon. I am curious to see what that's going to be because, again, I did not plant any squatty sunflowers last year. I planted all mammoth varieties. So I'm curious to see what this will be. Let's head on over to the garden and take a look. All right, let's start with this. Is a yellow crookneck squash. It is doing really well still, filling out nicely, and it's had a couple of females, but it hasn't had any male blossoms open yet. So those females did not get pollinated, and most likely they're just gonna die off there. Now I do see my first male flower is about to happen right here, so the rest of these females should hopefully get some pollination and get started. But look at this. Look at how many of them are about to start in there. Good grief. You're doing a great job. This little patty pan here, it's looking pretty good. It needs some water tonight, and it's starting to get blossoms forming. It looks like they're all males at this point. Hopefully soon it'll start producing some females. I would really like to see it get a little bit bigger. Honestly, it's pretty small. My purchased sage is looking great. It's growing nicely and thriving. This here is a sore spot. This is savory, and it was doing really well until the other day I came out and found a green hornworm eating it all up. You can see it's really been eaten pretty good. It's starting to come back though. I got rid of the hornworm. I fed it to the chickens and they loved it. So this should come back and be just fine. This is my bed of sadness, all for of my jalapenos died. I don't know why. I really just have no clue what happened here. There doesn't appear to be anything wrong. They were watered, and they'd had fertilizer put in. I really just don't know. But this is big enough. I think I could get 3 well-pruned tomato plants in this space. So I think I'm going to pull these out and bring over a couple of the starts, or a couple of the, not the starts, the volunteer tomato plants, and see if they will come up. I need to harvest this spinach today. I'll harvest all but a few of the small leaves, and we'll have that with our dinner. This one is not a spinach, this is a lettuce. I think it's a type of romaine, but I will definitely harvest some of that too. This little spinach is looking good. This one is starting to go to seed. So we may not have much longer with the spinach, but it looks good. Very happy with that after the bug problems. Y'all, check out my Swiss chard. Look how beautiful that plant is. I'm going to harvest a few of those with the spinach. Take some of that down, and I'll harvest some of this curly kale here as well. It is being eaten on by something, but it still seems to be thriving, so I'm hoping if I harvest it, it'll fill out. My little parsleys are still hanging in there. Come on, little parsleys, you can do it. This tomato plant, this one is the orange cherry that Whit loves, and it is just absolutely loaded with fruit. Let me see if I can get in here. Whoops, that was my hand, sorry. See, look at all of that. Beautiful fruit. And up here, oops, look at all of that beautiful fruit. And there's another one down here. And that big one there is going to be the first one that ripens. It was the first one that appeared. So I've been watching that baby closely. I'm waiting for the blush. There are tons of flowers on top of this. It's going to be fantastic. This thyme is coming right along. It looks really good and healthy. The oregano looks good and healthy. This tomato plant does not. This tomato plant is the one with the worst pesticide damage. All of them had a little bit, and they've all recovered, except for this one. This one is just, it's really limp. All of its leaves are growing in curled. I don't know if it's going to make it or not. I'm kind of waiting to see at this point. I don't know if, I'm trying to decide if I should rip it out, but I wanted to show you. It does actually have 2 little tomatoes on it. And, oh, there's a third one. Right there, little baby. So it is producing. So I kind of hate to tear it out, but it's also sick and struggling, and I don't know. I just haven't decided yet. Moving on. This is my mortgage lifter, and it doesn't have tons of blossoms yet. I'm hoping it will catch up, but it does have a few fruits starting. Let's get in here. Let's see, where's my hand? Oh. There we go. So there's one. And I saw another one, but I don't know where it's at. But what I really wanted to show is this fused blossom. Now, the mortgage lifters are supposed to get up to 2 pounds. And this guy looks like it's probably 3 blossoms all together. So I can't even imagine how big that's going to end up. I am letting that go. Typically I would pull blossoms that are fused because the fruits just don't do well. But I'm going to let that go and see how it does. Mint is growing beautifully. This patio tomato plant is so beautiful. I can't even begin to express how amazing this thing is. And you really have to dig to find these fruits. Look at this. There it is. They are deep in there, but they're big. There's some more on the other side. Let me show those off too. Look at those. This is a cherry style tomato plant, but that is a big cherry. It is doing so good. This carrot is actually looking really good right now. And this tomato plant is my Cherokee purple. And I don't remember if I said in the last video about my bad dream. I had a nightmare that somebody came in and stole my Cherokee purple tomato plant and left candy and nuts in its place. And I was devastated. So if that tells you what I feel about my tomatoes. So there's a couple of really big ones going. There's another one over here. They are looking great. And if the tomato plant that is struggling does not survive, I'm probably going to pull a sucker off of this plant and just root it and transplant it over there, because this one is doing really well. And I'm hoping that it would root really well. I am coming through and cutting the blossoms off of this basil pretty frequently, and it's continuing to blossom. So if I can limp it through the summer, it should fill out again in the fall, I'm hoping. We'll see. In the meantime, it's a nice, refreshing little bite of something in the garden. These are coming back and doing really well. These are the zucchini that I had to go buy because mine just would not come up to save my life. And they were looking a little sketchy last week, but they look good now. My chamomile has little blossoms about to form. So I'm really excited about that. And with chamomile, you have to pick all of the blossoms in order to keep it growing. So I will have to keep on that and pick and dry the blossoms. Oh my goodness, look at this. What are you? Little jerks. Ants. I have ants on my basil. Get off. Alright, so I'm going to have to deal with that. All of you. You need to go there. All of you, get off of there. Okay, well, I need to go to the store and get some stuff to get rid of these bugs. They actually look pretty good still. Bugs. So I am starting to get blossoms on my peas, but they haven't opened yet and haven't produced any peas. We'll see what happens with that. The flea beetles did not attack my beets. They still look good. They're not really growing too much, I'm assuming because it's been so hot. I don't know. But at least they're still alive and not being eaten, so that's a step in the right direction. These zinnia plants are still growing. They haven't flowered yet, but I think they need to get bigger before they flower, so I'm not too worried about that. My amethyst basil looks good. It is flowering just like the other basil. Just not too surprised about that. And there are more blossoms on these peas. The nasturtiums still haven't changed at all. I don't know. I'll try them again next year because they're supposed to be very good, but it's awfully funny that it's just not doing anything. The bush beans, however, are coming along nicely. This is gonna fill out. My canoe is gonna look so cool soon. It's gonna fill right out with all of these beans, and in that bare spot I'll plant a few more that'll come up later. I think that's gonna look wonderful. The black turtle beans, I thought they were a pole variety, but I went back and looked and they're a half runner, which means that they'll bush out, but they'll grow up too. So I don't know what to expect from these guys. But I did go through and thin out half of the plants, and the rest that are remaining here are looking really good and healthy. So I'm pretty happy with that. These sweet peppers are doing really well. The other ones came from the same exact source, had all the same exact treatment. So I don't know why these are just really working where the other ones didn't. And then again with nasturtiums that aren't doing anything, borage that isn't really doing anything, and the bee balm keeps getting bigger, so I'm confident that it is doing something. So that is the walkthrough for this week. I wanted to end it here with my Colorado blue spruce that is staying. It's the only pine tree in this little grove that will continue to be here, or pine style, evergreen style. I guess that's what we'll call it. It's the only one that will continue to be here when all the junipers are gone because we both love it. And I don't know. It's a beautiful day. It's a little cooler than it's been, so it was nice to get out and get some things done out here. I hope you all are having a wonderful week. Until next time, God bless.